That was a wonderful presentation, very heartwarming. It seems so appropriate to introduce now a man that everyone knows personally from his great passion for education. Given this moment, I want you to all welcome Governor Gray Davis. Thank you so much for being here today. If you so wish, if you so wish, if you so.
Thank you, Dr. Wright, for your leadership and your passion and bringing CITRIS to this crowning moment. President Yudof, it's a thrill to have you from Texas. It's after a California private university lost the University of Texas several years ago, we're finally even now that we have you at Berkeley. Chancellor Birgeneau, thank you so much for your leadership. You have been with this dream from the very beginning and nurtured it and breathed life into it, and it's just a thrill to be with you and all of the close friends of CITRIS. Every single human being I'm looking at behind me, generous donors and family, in front of me, researchers, friends, supporters, all of you, every single person made this day possible, and I'm just so thrilled to be with you. You know, every governor comes into office hoping they can leave California better off than they found it. And as Dr. Wright said, my great passion was education. One of my biggest dreams was I wanted to make sure I did everything I could to keep California universities as the preeminent source of science and innovation in America. And in 2000, before the dot-com bubble, we had the dot-com, the flip side of it. We had all the benefits of it. We had plenty of money. And one thing you learn as governor is, boy, you got to spend that money on one-time projects. You know, we don't want ongoing projects because we know hard times are coming, and we're seeing them in spades now. But I had a version of hard times in 2002 and 2003, and my friend Governor Schwarzenegger, unfortunately, is dealing with hard times now. So one thing you want to do is find one-time projects for this money. And someone came to me, the dean of Richard Lerner, the dean of the Scripps Institute. He said, you know, a great thing to do, it'd be a great way to follow on Silicon Valley and the creation of the biotech industry, be like a booster rocket to academic innovation in California. Let's create 4 centers of science and innovation. And you put up the money and you challenge the universities to more than double the money that you raised. And so I did that. I proposed that to the legislature. Happily, they allowed me to give $400 million to build 4 institutes. And I challenged President Yudof's predecessor, then President Atkinson. I said, President Atkinson, I want you to raise at least $800,000. He raised about $1.2 million for some of the initial research at these institutes. And that was a great time to do it, 2000. Trust me, if we tried to do it in 2001, 2002, 2003, there wasn't the money. But we did it at the right time, and we have together created something very special. CITRIS, I'm particularly proud of CITRIS, and I want to tell you a little anecdote. The legislation that I asked for really asked for 3 institutes, and we made a big deal out of this. We said, we want the president of Caltech, a professor at Caltech who's a member of the Science Committee of the Nobel Committee, the president of Stanford, and Richard Lerner to choose between competing applications from the 9 campuses, and many of the campuses partnered for even another application. So we had 13 or 14 applications for 3 centers of science innovation. And the committee came back and said, we want 4 centers of science innovation. So I said, I can't believe it. I picked the smartest people in the world to winnow down 13 applications for 3, and they gave me 4. I said, what is it about 3 that you don't understand? And so then they introduced me to Dean Newton. And all of a sudden, I understood the value of 4 centers of science and innovation. And I want to pay tribute to his family, to his passion, to his drive. But in a very real way, even though CITRIS headquarters is the last one to come online, it can easily be the best institute because it has the broadest and most exciting charter. Its charter is nothing less than to identify the most pressing problems before society and to provide solutions to those problems. I mean, how can you have a bigger mandate than that? I mean, the president, that's like being the president. And not only has Dr. Wright indicated some of the work they've already done, but I want to mention 2 or 3 things that are already in society today. But before I go any further, I just want to tell you, I am convinced that the research done at CITRIS will improve our lives and change the world. And it will change the world because of all of you and all the graduate students that will do research here, dedicated to improving our lives and showing the rest of the world and inspiring the rest of the world to follow our lead. Now, Dr. Wright went over some of the, before I get to that, I do want to say that right here in Sutaja Hall and Vanatow Institute, researchers working with their colleagues at Merced, Davis, and Santa Cruz will use multidimensional approaches to find solutions to society's most pressing problems. And Dr. Wright has already mentioned several things that are being done. I won't go over those, so I'm skipping over those pages in my speech. But I do want to get to a couple things, one of which he mentioned briefly and one of which he didn't. He talked about Demand Research Project. You'll recall in 2001, we had some blackouts. There's some story to that, and I won't get into the details, but see the DVD about Enron. That's a good primer. However, whether that crisis was manipulated entirely or just in part, we do have to be more efficient as a society, and we do have to show the rest of the world something about demand efficiency. Now, we have done that. For 3 decades, California's population has doubled, and our increase in demand has been 0. It's a flat line. The rest of America has grown at 30%. And when candidate and Senator Obama came out here to talk to Stephen Chu, he gave him what we did in terms of building better appliances and better houses and buildings and building materials over 30 years and said, if you do this for the rest of America, you will achieve a competitive advantage over the rest of the world. And that's exactly what he and President Obama are going to do, and hopefully some of that grant money will be sprinkled over Berkeley and over the national lab up there, as well it should. But the specific things that CITRIS is doing that I want to mention, on demand management, whether it's an appliance in your home like a refrigerator or air conditioning or a whole industry, you can get real-time energy information which will allow you to reduce, if you choose, the amount of energy you're consuming, thereby averting too much stress on the electricity grid, saving you money, and averting blackouts. The other thing I want to mention that is on the market now was, I got a demonstration of this early on from David Breslauer, a graduate student right here at Berkeley, and he's developed a cellscope, which is a combination of a cell phone and a microscope, which can is capable of capturing an image, magnifying it 1,000 times, and transmitting it back to a laboratory. So if you're in the field in a third world country and you're diagnosing a blood sample to detect malaria or TB, you can do it. Or if you're in a home and want to take a blood sample and see if someone has developed cancer, you can do it. That is a device that is available today, which is helping improve our lives. Thank you. Let me close with one final thought. All of us are the beneficiary of the sacrifice, hard work, and innovation of the generations that have come before us. I remember going to parties at David Packard's ranch when he would get about 100 people who would discuss innovation at Stanford and UC Berkeley and UC San Francisco. And you'd have academics there, and you'd have venture capitalists there, and you'd have entrepreneurs there. And I remember the pioneering work that UC Berkeley, UC San Francisco, and Stanford did developing the biotechnology industry, which has revolutionized the way we live around the world. Those and many other advantages now accrue to us, and we stand on the shoulders of some special people. California is probably the best place on earth for innovation, and that is a good thing in a global economy, because you can't outsource something you have not yet invented. And as long as we keep inventing, there will be a role for California, and there will be a role for America. And my message is invest in research universities, and America will be strong. But one of the great inspiration to me was Irwin Jacobs. Irwin Jacobs was a professor at MIT. He then spent some time at Caltech, and then he went to the University of California at San Diego. He started something in the 70s called Linkabit, sold that, developed a company, sold it for $1 billion in the early 80s, and started a little-known company called Qualcomm, which is the largest employer in San Diego, employs about 14,000 people, and another 22,000 work in San Diego supplying parts to Qualcomm. That is the best example of academic innovation positively impacting lives in California. And so I'm now going to close by introducing a graduate student. She hasn't quite achieved the eminence of Irwin Jacobs. Oh, I might add, Irwin's son is here, Paul, who is a graduate student from UC Berkeley, as is his wife. They both went to the School of Engineering. So even though Irwin is associated with UC San Diego, Paul is associated with UC Berkeley. But it's now my pleasure, if I can get to the right page in my speech. Now my pleasure to introduce Lindsay Miller, who is going to study and work as a graduate student in the CITRIS building. And you may have read in the paper today, the Chronicle, about all the good work Mark Andreessen did as a graduate student. I'm fully expecting Lindsay to do at least as good a job. Like a relay race, I've long believed that all of us who get the baton run as fast and as far as we can, and then when we finish, we pass it on to the next generation. So symbolically and literally, I want to call Lindsay to the stage, because you're the next generation, and you're going to make CITRIS a fantastic success.
Good afternoon.